Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Antichess Law. And what we're going to look at tonight, this gentleman by the name of Towns Paycheck. And this episode is entitled The Legend of Towns. So who is Towns Paycheck? Let's have a look at his rating, about 2,400. But what we can see is it looks like he has not played for quite a long time. So kind of around early 2018, it looks like there's very little activity. So what I want to talk about is why this man is such a legend. Not only because of his extremely high rating, his high status as a kind of legendary Lichess player. And he actually has a best rating on here of about 2,800 back in the old days. The ratings got a bit crazy, but he was certainly one of the best. But what makes Towns even more incredible, that really sets him apart from a lot of these other amazing players, is his choice of openings. And what we're going to find out is what these openings revealed was, like most people, Towns played e3 as Wyatt and got good positions, beat the best players. And then one day he decides, you know what? This game is too easy. I want to make it a real challenge. And after this time, I'm only going to play f4 as white and f6 as black. And even if you're not really super familiar with opening theory, I can tell you those openings are pretty terrible on the surface. The evaluation's pretty bad. Your opposition is going to get a pretty good position if you play those openings. They are difficult to play. And not only has Towns played these openings, he obviously re-registered another account called F4 Opening and pretty much dominated most opposition. Even the really top players, he still managed to beat a lot of the time with this big handicap. And when I first found out about this guy, I was absolutely blown away. I thought, wow, okay, anti-chess is just too easy for this guy, so he needs to handicap himself by playing these openings. How does he do it, though? How is he that good? Well, let's go back. So when he was called Towns Paycheck, our first game I'm going to briefly look at is against another supreme master of the game called Jodl. And you can see these huge ratings here 5 years ago, quite impressive. And this is only a 1 minute game, so I'm not going to spend a long time on this. It's just to sort of showcase a pretty interesting game that Towns won against one of the best players of all time. And this was back when he played E3. So I'll run through this fairly quickly. This C6 opening, not very common. I know Sticks plays it all the time, but it is workable. And this is theory. Okay. So we can kind of see just solidifying things over here on the queen side, kind of waiting to see what will happen. Try and gently activate the rook. Okay, the queen is off. Okay, we've exchanged. Okay, White's trying to get rid of that black rook, succeeds. Okay, Black's trying to come over, cause some problems on the queen side. And this is the critical position. So here, again, it's 1-0. So you've reached a position and Black thinks he sees something. He thinks, if I move this e-pawn here. I can kind of open up down onto this knight, which looks like it's defended twice. So that's exactly what he does. E6. And now Towns comes up with a nice little move to stop that knight being attacked at all, blocking the bishop over rook b2. Very nice. Now it's also difficult to see because you've got a few captures coming in a row. You've got takes, takes, and takes, takes here. It's looking really difficult to calculate very quickly in a 1-0 game, but he's played it and it's come off this way. And after all those captures, now I don't know whether he saw it or whether it was an instinctive move, but that is pretty impressive intermediate to get those few moves. Now it's the game's over. The rook will take the rest. So a pretty nice win by Towns. The next game I think is much more interesting, and this is a game that Towns has played against this guy, I, who I think may have had the highest rating ever on Chess, around 3,000-ish. So this was a game some 4 years ago. And now you can see White's first move here is f4. So Towns, even during this time when he is at nearly at peak powers, 2,600 plus rating, etc., he's still pulling out these moves. And this is a really lovely game. So Black's going to get a nice advantage out of the opening. All pretty standard. And I know we can't always trust Stockfish in openings. Stockfish just hates this opening, says it's about -10 or something ridiculous. But apart from the double pawns here, it's really not too bad. It's still fairly playable. So let's see. Knight c6. All right, queen activates. Gets rid of it. Few trades. All right, this is the first interesting move here that White's played. d4 looks a little risky. As you can see, after knight takes, and then we're going to have the c5 move, and this pawn's going to be kind of marching up here, taking a lot of things. So I think Wyatt has to be quite careful that he hasn't already lost the game, but I think he's seen enough that he thinks it's all right. I'm not going to be able to take the lot, or at least he doesn't think so. So after these exchanges, this is exactly what Black does. Get rid of some pieces, and all right, so the king comes across, and White's going to be forced to promote. And we can kind of see many pieces that will be promoted to are going to be a bit problematic. So this is a dicey position. White's still got both these bishops. But let's see what happens. And what to promote to? Well, we can kind of see just about anything else loses except for a bishop. It's the only piece that does not lose immediately. So Towns sees this, promotes to bishop, but still tricky. And Black comes over this move, e5. So I think thinking, all right, we can trade off this bishop down here and should be fine. We should get a position here where this pawn, the A pawn, is going to get stuck against both the two. We can kind of see the positional weakness of White's opening here. But after takes, this is the critical point. Now, what I've done is I've pointed out the valuation here of Stockfish is +1, which doesn't really mean much because now White finds a really spectacular move. This is really genius because obviously before a couple moves, you'd think Black would think this is pretty safe. This e-pawn is defended by the rook, 2 knights, and a bishop. But this nice little move here, rook h7, just gives him that extra time. So we're still in the game, still not won by any stretch of the imagination. This is still really difficult for Wyatt and has to play it very carefully. So what does White do? There's a few more pieces. Now he's gotten rid of that troublesome doubled a-pawn. But of course, now the bishop goes. So we do have to be very careful to finish this off. Lures the pawn down. And what we can see is, at first glance, it looks, oh, hang on, White's got 2 bishops. Can we promote for a draw? No, because they're both dark squared bishops. So bishop promotion is loss, king promotion is loss. And Black tries knight, but White quickly finds this combination to trap the knight over here. Now this knight's stuck after a4. Lose the pawn and bishop d2. And the knight will take on a5 next move. Really nice game from Towns. Yeah, rook h7 was a joyful move. But even earlier, the bravery to sort of push this pawn up and think, yep, he's not gonna lose the lot. I'm still in it. We're gonna have that advantage. So very nice game. And one more game I'd like to show is, this is when he has his f4 opening account. But as you can see, it says this account is closed. Now, I talked to Towns recently and he didn't say he'd retired for good. He said he might even come back soon, but he's got a lot of real life stuff going on. So hopefully we'll see the return of f4 opening in time. But this is a game against one of the best players in the world, change opening or flow. And this time we have f6. So f4 opening, we'll play f4 as White, and f6 as Black, which is also not great. Probably slightly better than f4, but still going to get some tricky double pawn type positions. Okay, so going through this. So Stockfish evaluation's already plus 10, but that doesn't really matter. Okay. Go through, that's fine. Okay, and even here we're 11 moves in and still looks like White has a fairly big advantage, but it's not really easy to see what to do. Black is still fine, solid. Again, these double pawns are going to be a bit of an issue, but now bishop a3, which probably isn't the optimal move. It looks fine. Looks like we're going to take down on e7, or if Black plays c5, which he does, seems like no problem. We're hitting these 2 squares. But again, Towns comes up with this nice little move here, queen c7, and allows the queen to come up here and rest, giving him lots more options. So after takes, king takes, now the queen's sitting pretty nicely here. Yep, so just taking the time here to sit, letting White recapture and trying to open the rook up, which he does. And here it's, again, Black finds another really nice move. I need to take here, I can't play knight or bishop here. White's actually going to be fine with any move except for moving the d pawn. So now it gives this nice little path up here, allowing White to take the rook, and now Black wins the game fairly simply from here. All right, and that is it. So we hope we can see the return of Town soon, but a truly remarkable player who has done something that I really don't think anyone else will do, because F4 opening has played over 30,000 games with a poor opening just for the challenge. So magnificent to see. All right, so thank you, and I'll see you next time.